Sorry for that clickbait title, but hey, you're here, aren't you? I was planning on releasing this essay as part of a 1,000 subscriber celebration whenever that were to happen. I wanted to hit 1,000 and commit channel suicide into a grand showing of irony. But my new job, I think, will require much more focus from me, and I've decided it might be time to try and seppuku this now. So, what can I say that will suicide my subscriber count? Could I announce my feelings on trans children? Could I announce my thoughts on Hitler? Or could I start speaking my mind on abortion rights? No, I have something even more controversial to talk about. I hate casuals. So before we get into the crux of my argument, we should all refresh ourselves on the seminal texts for the matter. Something you should all read, regardless of how angry you might be that I've cast off the daddy casual gamers, is a short essay on being a cripple by Nancy Mars. This was a foundational piece for my formation as a young man. It was given to me in 10th grade English when kids were still allowed to think and be challenged. It was even assigned to me by my very left-wing English teacher, Mr. Edwards. Also way back when a teacher who disagreed with you on everything would still be a mentor. Mr. Edwards specifically gave me this assignment to analyze on being a cripple because I was being, bullied, I guess, verbally in class because I, as you can imagine, always took some contrarian position to everyone else at my upper-class, left-leaning high school. After months of just verbal poundings in class, I was a bit tired, and Mr. E saw that. I just didn't have the same argumentative spirit, or weaponized autism, whatever you want to call it, that I normally had when engaging in class debate. But Nancy Mars changed that for me. It was the first time in my life I saw someone's words express true contrarian bravery. I mean, I don't even want to analyze the essay itself because you all should just go read it. It's fair enough to say someone who had the absolute massive swinging cojones of Nancy Mars to rage against the dying light while actually dying was nothing short of inspiring for me as a young man. I didn't know how I could ever not say what was on my mind after reading how she did. It got better when the very same week I saw George Carlin on Comedy Central, back when they used to actually do comedy, incorporate her essay into his iconic bit about soft language, which you should also go watch because it's not just funny, but it's profound. That one single week made me mostly into what I am, a contrarian with an obsession for jokes as the medium for expressing that obtuseness. So with that in mind, and with Nancy's spirit hopefully at my back, let me say with my dying YouTube breath, fuck casual players. No, I don't mean leave and get out of my game, and no, I don't mean you shouldn't have a say in things, nor am I saying you don't have a right to be heard, and despite whether or not you personally consider yourself a casual, you should stay and play Project Diablo 2. What I am saying very clearly here, that game balance should never be centered around the term casuals. Term. Because it is, as Carlin would call it, a soft language term that is so flexible as to have no meaning outside the single context the speaker uses it. Put simply, a casual is whatever the speaker needs to make an effective argument. It's a MacGuffin for the speaker to use to batter opponents. If you want a class buffed because you like that class, well, thanks, phone. Speak about how inaccessible that class is to casuals. If you want access to an endgame boss you can't beat or reach, talk about how casuals want to play too. And if you want a crafting system change, talk about how casual friendly it is to give such great options to players with low playtime. At the same time, if you want a class nerfed, you can talk about how even casuals can play it. If you want an endgame boss to be unreachable, talk about how casuals can even do it. And if you want exclusivity for items, talk about how casuals shouldn't have access to the same items hardcore players do. All of these sound like good arguments, and in certain contexts with enough evidence or verbose eloquence, they might actually be good arguments. But the fact that you can make all of these arguments just by centering around the word casual is the problem. And the term casuals across gaming, especially for Project Diablo 2, has become this hodgepodge, catch-all mashup of you must have concern for the vulnerable, the modern war cry for Western democracies. But the problem is, the vulnerable always shifts based on the speaker, making it impossible to have a sensible discussion, as even the same speaker will change their definition of vulnerable, sometimes within the same conversation, just to win the argument. With our main forums being, for discussion, being an overly moderated Discord, sorry mods, I love you, but you're way too fast on silencing dissent, and an underrated subreddit that's left to the populist bullshit system of hiding downvoted comments, we can't even talk about this. I mean, my favorite example of this is Chug That Estes suggesting a reasonable change to declone, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but only to be downvoted nearly negative because a casual concerner wants access to a declone build he will never use and never try. Oh, and that idiot was calling beta access a pay-to-win system 2 days later. But whatever, he's a casual, and his lack of whatever that makes him a casual should be a concern for the devs. Yeah, my ass. And by the way, it doesn't even matter if Chug was serious about disabling Hydras for that. Just the fact that everybody piled on because someone used the word casual to describe keeping a build in for declone is an exemplar of this syndrome. The only thing holding back the floodgates from just bowing down to this casual argument is, as I see it, Senpai's steadfast determination to just make the game he wants. And we've even seen him, in his own words, bend the knee for Season 5. And I like some of those bend-the-knee changes, like maps back to Players 5, but it means even the best form of, let's call it a government, that of a benevolent and wise dictator, has the inherent flaws of all dictatorships like ours, that the dictator is still human, even if he is a very skilled and dedicated human. And much like my other popular video essays, I don't really have a solution for this. Now, I know the midwits here are already frothing up a comment about how I don't care about casuals, but that's not the argument here. And so let me be very clear again about what I'm saying. We can never balance this game around casuals because we don't know what that is. It's a Carlin-esque soft language, meaningless term. It's a logical fallacy people throw out, similar to a no true Scotsman. Any attempt to talk about what a casual is just gets lost in Reddit downvote toxicity, or overly zealous censorship, or just lack of care by the community. It's a truly Orwellian to Huxleyan span of fuckery here, but time after time, complaint after complaint, post after post, someone brings up the casuals and their need to be thought of, Offer your thoughts and prayers for the casuals today in their time of need. The systemic discrimination in gaming has stamped out the casuals. Casuals are being denied their identity when we don't think of them. You see these meaningless arguments in politics all the time, and I've obviously just slid the word casual in there, but we only ever notice these silly arguments when it's the political side we don't like that's using them. But here, everyone cares about the casual. So we let it slide. We're all members of the casual political party. I am excited for PD2 Season 5, but I'm also more afraid for the game life than I've really ever been. We're getting a more populous season, full of our wildest dreams, except for throw barbs. But something worries me as this fluid term casual becomes more rampant. How much more do we have to give to something that is gone, undefined? I'm not sure we can worship ghosts, and it needs a solid, concrete answer. So I'll leave you always, I'll leave you as I always do, with a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche taken out of context. The very word casual is a misunderstanding. In truth, there was only one casual, and he died in the den of evil. So as I said, I wrote this sort of as a channel suicide note, and I keep remembering what I used to write on the very bottom of my first posts that said, "You all mean nothing to me," as a reminder to never become obsessed with exposure. And considering I just pumped out multiple videos because I was getting exposure for being edgy, I think I've forgotten that. Maybe it's time for a real break from YouTube for a while. I'll pump out some editing if maybe Wapinator has more power rankings, but later, guys. For now.